Hey everybody, it's Leeroy from Leeroy Gaming, and in today's Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous video, I'm going to be sharing with you some advanced tips for the Crusader system in Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous. Now, if you're new to the system and you just got access to it in Act 2, I would behoove you to watch my top 10 tips, beginner tips for the Crusader system. That's going to help you get started, and it will basically, if you follow the tips, make sure that you wipe the map out, clear everything you can clear in Act 2 so that when you hit Act 3, you hit the ground running and have everything you need to get started and keep on moving with that momentum. Now, with that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at the tips I have for you today. The very first tip I'm going to give you guys is one that was requested in my other video, and I was kind of surprised when I had heard so many people being confused by this, which is how to manage and merge armies. So I'm going to go over that with you right now. So when you have multiple armies, as you see here, I have about 6 armies here in this same area. You're going to see, for example, to the right of the Crusader army, there's these two little arrows. So let's say I have this army, my main army, over here. And let's say I travel here, but they're not together. Notice this aligned. Now I can click this button. It's going to show the army you were mainly controlling here. And now you have your other armies here in the upper right hand corner. You can basically move through them. Now, what also confused some people, I think, is the fact that people were trying to move armies and combine them when you were at your limit. So if you see down here, it says army size. 4 out of 4, and that's 4 out of 4 stacks. Now I can go through here and look at the content, and if any of these are the same as these units, if I have any Hell Knights, Shield Bearers, Clerics, or Archers, I can easily move them through. Unfortunately, I believe that here we go, perfect example, Hell Knights, Army 6, either drag them over or click this little button here, and there you go, that army is now gone, and you combine them. So that is exactly how you would do it. You can also just as easily spread them. Just remember, see, here's a basic army with no general. It has a max limit of 3. So this you upgrade, as I mentioned in the first video, the Master of Maneuvers kind of a feat here that you can get as you level up. All right, the next tip I want to give you guys about is really explaining the infirmary system. In my beginner tips, I mentioned that in the infirmary system basically identifies how many of your units that die can get automatically rezzed at the end of a battle. But people are still confused about identifying how to figure out what is the cutoff point. So I'm going to show that to you right now. So if you look at the portrait of your character, it's kind of almost incognito, but right next to it, you have a little bar and it says infirmary size. You may or may not be able to see it quite well, but it's like a big blue bar and a light blue bar starts filling up. So let me show you. I'm going to allow my units to get a little jacked up here. You're going to see how this fills up as units get killed. So I'm just going to go ahead and turn. Let them beat up on them a little bit. Okay, that doesn't really help. All right. Sure. Okay, there we go. So we just lost 5. Notice how it went up again. Let's do that again. And what's really neat about this, guys, is that as you heal, it's going to obviously react and drop down. So let's go ahead and res some units that just died. And again, you can mouse over them and I'll tell you how many it'll res. So this will res potentially 10. This is going to res potentially 0, it looks like. They must have not lost any. So there we go. We just resed it and see how that dropped down. So this is important to note because if you're using my previous tactic of making sure you have heals going, if you're about to win the match and you notice that this bar is completely full, you need to heal some units, at least heal once before you finish off the enemies, or more until that's no longer full. And as long as it's no longer full, everything else is going to come back. You do not have to heal your units to full. They will fully regenerate as long as this is not maxed out. So again, that's the infirmary size system. It will grow as you level up, obviously. Now, the second tip and information I want to share with you guys is the concept of these additional resources that were not a role in Act 2. In Act 2, you only had financial points, which is what you were using to recruit these units here. But now you're going to have access to material points and also energy points. Now, both of these you're going to be able to earn every single day. You're going to start with a small baseline of them once you take over Drezen and start Act 3. There's also going to be building I'll be showing you that can get this, but also in the world, when you defeat certain encounters, you will see there'll be rewards for defeating these encounters. And you can always find out what these rewards are when you right-click on an enemy army. Sometimes it'll be something you want, sometimes well. So here's material points times 5. Now, some people thought this is just 5 materials. No, you'll notice here it says daily income. So as soon as you defeat these armies, this army here, you're going to get an extra 5 materials every single day. And that's actually significant because a lot of the buildings will only give you about 3, maybe 5 materials, as we'll take a look in just a second. So do note, one of the ways to just increase your daily income is by clearing the map of monsters. What's nice is if you followed my technique for Act 2, by the time you're here in Act 3, you should be able to steamroll a bunch of the enemies. Here, there were maybe 5 to 10 encounters that already cleared out around the beginning area. With this army that I built up in Act 2, you should be able to do the same and have a really, really good start to your material game. So the next tip I want to give you guys is working on beginner building synergies. So starting with Drezen as the ultimate example, we're going to go into Drezen and you're going to click on it and you're going to click this manage button. Now once you load in, you're going to notice there's nothing built here. You click the build button and you have these layouts. So our goal here is to basically get the production of your main 3 types of units, which is cavalry, which is archers and footmen going, and then buffing it in a couple of ways in a synergistic kind of way. And I'll show you one such way right now. So the only buildings that are actually going to build units of all the areas that you can build settlements are going to be in Drezen. So notice this is main archery range, main barracks, and main stables. I'll be mentioning this a little bit later when we look at other settlements. But we want to build all 3 of these. And I'm going to build them in a very specific way. So here's going to be one building. Here's the barrack. And here are the stables. All right, so now there's going to be a couple buffing buildings that we're going to add. And these will be specific because they impact adjacent buildings. So we want to start with a training ground. And this is technically the most expensive of these, although they're all pretty close as far as materials, but the initial resource, the financial points, these ones are a little bit more expensive. Depending which one you have a surplus of, this may dictate what you do. But basically, we're going to do one training ground. And then there are 2 other buildings that we want to build. We're going to want to build a smithy. And you basically want to make sure that all 3 of these get impacted one way or another. So unfortunately, this gets a little bit more pricey if you want to impact all of them. But it's still relatively efficient. So we're going to go ahead and with the smithy, we're going to build one here. And then we're going to build one here. So this one impacts your archery range and your barrack. This impacts your main stable and your barrack. But again, we want to make sure we cover these 3. And then the final area that we need to get is going to be... Now, the final thing that you're going to build potentially is going to be the arsenal for the increased AC. Now, you don't technically have to do this. I would say the armor class is the most important for your melee units. Like your archers shouldn't, unless you get the rangers, shouldn't be really getting in melee. But if you're kind of low on cash, you can build one here. And again, because of the layout limitations, you're not going to, you're going to have to kind of unfortunately do multiple of these. But like I'll put one here. I'll put one here. And if you really want to, put one for the main archery range, you can do one more like this. And now this covers absolutely everything. All 3 of them have all 3 buffs. Now you're not going to have these materials right off the bat. But again, you can click up here. And if you have a bunch of gold from if you use my strategies for making money in the first video, you can buy either one of these and get this set up. If you get basically this set up here, it gives all 3 buffs to all 3 buildings. You're going to be kind of set as far as initially buffing your 3 main recruitable units. Now, I also want to highlight a couple of buildings that you don't have to worry about synergies, kind of situational synergies for positions, but they offer really, really good buffs that are worth it because there's a lot of buildings and not all of them are going to be immediately useful across the board. Now, one potential investment that could pay off in the long run quite a bit is the engineer's workshop. And this is going to reduce the cost of building construction by 10%. Again, it's kind of pricey, but this could theoretically be one of your first buildings that you put out. And then obviously for, every 1,000 you spend, you're getting an extra, 100 back. So this can add up when it comes to the resources and lowering your building construction costs. So you can build one of those up nice and early. Another big one is Hall of Strategy, because this provides bonuses to attack and defense and to power for all generals. And this is a big deal because most generals, for example, will start like with 1 attack, 1 defense, or like 1 or 2 or 3 power. So for early levels, this is actually pretty significant. Another really, really helpful one, and this one is expensive, is the Military Academy, because this is going to provide an attack to bonus to attack, AC, and saving throws for all trainable units. And again, trainable is going to be the non-mercenary units. So again, our archers, our foot soldiers, and our cavalry. There's also one if you do a lot of recruiting, the Pathfinder Society Lodge, and this is going to be the same exact buffs, but for them. Again, very, very expensive building initially, and takes up 4 slots. But if you are really liking a lot of the recruiting a lot of the mercenaries for your armies, this one is probably worth getting as well. Now the next tip is about building the most important building in the game, and that is the teleportation circle. I recommend getting this up as soon as possible because this allows you from anywhere on the map with your main party to teleport back to Drezen. And this is going to be very, very important because the longer you stay out in the world, you are going to build up corruption and it's going to absolutely cripple you. And so you do not want to have to be making these long treks home when you're completely debuffed. This is a teleportation that doesn't cost anything once you actually build it. It has a 1-day cooldown, so you can go out really, really far, do a mission request, and then instantly teleport back to Drezen. You can later build this in other areas, but for beginners, this is going to save you so many headaches to be able to just teleport home whenever you want. Get this built as soon as possible. All right, now I'm going to address a very important question, and this is a tip that's going to tell you where you can actually build. So obviously, Drezen is your most obvious point, but you can also build in any one of these. They look like little settlement pictures. They actually look more like wooden cogs, but you'll notice they're specific locations. So here's Keeper's Canyon. Here is Sorcerer's Fortress. And even earlier on in Act 2, you actually unlocked without knowing. Hamlet of Sork is another one, as well as over here you have Bilraf's Forge, Outpost, etc., etc. All of these you can build and you can upgrade in. So if you click on them and click Manage, you'll notice you're going to have a tiny outpost, and it only has 4 slots. Don't you worry. You're going to build totally different type of buildings here, and also in your citadel, you're going to end up eventually have options. They're going to be decrees that you can make. They're going to be expensive. That will allow you to upgrade these and make them bigger. So you'll get a decree, and then I'll say once you fill out 3 out of 40 slots, you'll be able to pay for an upgrade and give you more space. But early and mid game, you're not even going to care about that. You're going to care about a very simple setup. Now, early in the game, you're going to care mainly about a very simple setup, which leads me into the next tip, which is all about what to build in minor beginner settlements. And this is going to be very, very simple. Basically, you're going to be able to win with quantity over quality. You're not going to need to max out and buff all your units. It's going to be very expensive over time to build up all your units' power, but it's not that hard to increase how much you can recruit of each of the units every single week. So there are these great little buildings. Notice it says Garrison Archery Range, Garrison Barrack, Garrison Stable, as opposed to Main Archery, Main Barrack, and Main Stable in Drezen. So here, if you look at the descriptor, this increases the recruitment growth for the main arch range by 25%. And they're not horribly expensive. The stables are the most expensive. They're all 25%. So what's nice is you could go into each one of these areas. Let's say you just want to, you have limited resources, but you want as many archers as you can. Well, you know what? Go and stick one of these archery ranges in every single location that you can find. So again, if we take a look at the map, even early on, you have one here, you have another one here, and there's more and more of them. So just those 4, that's a 100% increase. Instead of getting the base 20 archers a week, you're now going to be up to 40 archers. And you can do that for all of those, for all of the 3 basic types of units. In theory, you could go ahead and build each one of those within this building, within each settlement, to really buff up how many units you can recruit every single week. Now, while there are tempting buildings like Supply Center that can increase your material points increase by 3, which is nice, but remember in the earlier tip, you'll sometimes be able to defeat a monster army that by itself will increase it by 5. What you I recommend do is make sure you build a citadel on each one. Because what this does is increases the time that the siege of the fort by 3 days. And the baseline is 3. Now, the reason for this is that you're likely to have one main army that you're going to be running around and leveling up most of the kind of early mid-game. And so it could very much happen that one of your outposts gets sieged and you may be far, far away. And trying to rush back within 3 days, which is 120 movement points, can be a bit stressful. But by just simply building this out to having the citadel on these beginning areas, this ups it to about 6 to 7 days. Now, pretty much anywhere on the map you are, you're going to be able to get back to these and defend them with your main army, no problem. Going to lower your stress. And again, don't worry, everything else you're going to want to build, you'll be able to build as you expand this. But again, if you build 2 or 3 of those upgrades to get those percentage increases, as well as your citadel on each one, that's going to get you started real nice. All right, guys, next, I'm going to teach you how to identify deadly demon armies versus not so deadly armies. So when you look at the map as it is, you're going to see, oh, here's a demon army level 5. Here's a different army at level 6, 4, 6. Well, how do you know if the ones that are going to probably be pushovers versus ones that could be more deadly? And the short answer is the armies that are led by generals are much, much more likely to be deadly. And you can figure out if they are led by general or not by mousing over them. And you'll notice this has literally just 3 units here, no general. So that one's going to be nice and easy as long as you're within level. Again, this one, no general. This one, no general. Those are just giants. So don't let that fool you. But then look at this army right over here. That right there, notice below is that portrait, and it has, it shows that it has 90 magic, and it's a mage class. This is going to be much, much tougher than just a normal level 6 army. In fact, I'm going to give you this warning right here. Stay away from this army until you're way higher to level 6, because what this guy is going to cast on you, unless they fix it in a patch or something, as soon as it goes in, he's going to go and cast like chain lightning. And for me, I had like 300 archers and he one-shot all of them. And I'm like, no thank you, I'm going to load now. So he is a total pain in the butt if you're just starting out. But chances are, if you followed my tips, you will have no problem with normal level 6 and 7 armies. So if you're just kind of, going around slaughtering everything, this may catch you off guard. So again, if you look where Drezen is, if you follow down Lost Chapel, follow this road here, there's going to be like a quest area here. Just stay away from this demon army until you're ready and later. So that's what you're going to want to do to find out what's deadly and what kind of hint you at least what's going to be a problematic. Any of the wizard level demons are going to be a problem. They're pretty rare early mid game. Most of them will not have any leaders, but do note that one in particular to save you quite a few headaches. All right, and the final tip I want to tell you guys about is letting you know that decrees and kind of Citadel visitors matter. You're going to have Citadel visitors that will ask you for advice on kind of like what kind of military units to use for a situation. And it may not seem like the biggest thing in the very moment, but you're actually making permanent decisions for your units. So when you're starting out, you're just going to be able to build basic archers, basic scouts, and basic foot soldiers, but then you're going to make some decisions. For example, one of the decisions, got me shield bearers. And then I'm going to load for you in a second what I got by making another decision. So let's use some editing magic. So these decisions that I'm talking about are going to be in situations like this. You're going to go into your citadel. Somebody's going to run up to you, or more likely going to come. It's going to be like an official decree. And you're going to be asked to have multiple choices. You'll be able to kind of ask extra questions pertaining to, what do you think of these positions? And, one of your companions say, hey, for example, one is like, hey, we should, get the best snipers we can. One will say, hey, we need rangers that are, that can handle themselves in melee. Or another one might say, you know what, we just need to train the masses so we get the numbers. And they're kind of recommending slingers. So you're going to be making those decisions within this kind of interface here. And then what's going to happen is when you're done, it's going to change what you can recruit. So let's take a look what it looked like for me. All right, and here you see, for me, because of the decision I made, I now get rangers instead of archers. They are new permanent units that I can recruit, and they're quite a bit better than their basic ones. So again, you will have different opportunities to do that. Also, depending what story decisions you make, you will impact what kind of mercenaries may come and be recruitable. So, for example, I got Mongol sharpshooters here and clerics that I can recruit. Once you do certain stories, you'll have the Hell Knights as a potential option and so forth. So, depending what mythic pathway you follow, you will have different mercenaries and potentially different recruits. All right, and the final thing I want to kind of talk to you guys about is going to basically even though they call it managing a crusade, but this is kind of like the Kingmaker, the Pathfinder Kingmaker format that's returning. And so you're going to have all these different events you can control. There's going to be events, and there's what's going to be called decrees. And this can be a little confusing because what basically happens is there's going to be different types of decrees per category. You can only have one per type going. So for example, here's a leadership type of decree. Here's a military type one. Here's a diplomacy, etc. And when you select them, notice this is how many days till they're completed. So I'm studying the Sword of Valor. This is a logistics one. So until this is done, I can't do another logistics one. Here is a military one. And here is a diplomacy one. Now, biggest tip that I want to recommend that you do right off the bat is set up all your councils. So when you start out and you just unlock Drezen, you're going to basically have a bunch of these that say, set up a counselor for military affairs, one for diplomacy. Basically, for every single category, there's going to be one. You're going to have basically 4 different of these councils. Get those done as soon as possible because that's going to open up different opportunities and kind of story-driven events. We're going to make decisions, and it's going to impact what kind of mercenaries you get, what kind of recruitable units you get, etc. That's a big element. There's also going to be certain ones that are just kind of like buffs. So like this one right here will increase your financial points per turn. So those are kind of optional. There's going to be some that are mission related, like this Lost Scout one. But you will also have an option to just go and manually find them on the map. So a lot of times the ones that you can do manually on the map, I do those on the map myself. There are also expansion ones, and these are very expensive initially. But these will basically allow you, as I mentioned a hint before, to upgrade your minor settlements from just having those 4 slots to build on to more. So these are unique for that. And again, just plan ahead to save your resources if you plan on doing those updates. Early on, as I told you though, you're not going to need to do this. You can get some great upgrades just with the base levels. And then you're going to notice you're going to start getting all these relic related ones. And some people will be confused about this, but basically what this is you're going to find relics throughout the game, and it's going to be like story driven. They're going to be items that you can't initially kind of equip or anything like that, but you will basically bring them back and you'll have these missions. They're going to cost a moderate amount of resources. When you run it and complete it, it's going to give you a series of options of how to deal with that item. And when you do that, sometimes you have to do multiple kind of quote unquote upgrades, but it's going to lead to a very powerful, most of the time, item, whether it's a piece of equipment like a belt or a sword or a shield or a piece of armor. Just these are basically going to be kind of like almost like legendary like kind of items, and you will have an impact on how they are crafted. So those are the relic kind of decrees. You will also notice that there'll be some that will basically create buffs or add permanent feats to your units, like military tribunal. Now, unfortunately, like some of these, like we'll say unit has a +1 bonus attack. A lot of these I've found as of right now of this recording, the descriptive text will be broken, so you have to kind of guess what it does. But they're normally buffs, so it just gives you more customization of your units that you're going to have. And then the final thing is you're going to have different degrees, and again, also visitors in your citadel that are going to give you a lot of mutually exclusive options. So for example, in my game, I had a situation where it said, hey, there was a weird experiment, and these human beings, they became really, really dumb, but they grew to be giants. And then you have a choice of what to do with the giants. And one of them was basically like, oh, set up a settlement for them. Or one was like, hey, recruit them into your army. And then if you recruited them into your army, then all of a sudden you receive 2 of these giants into your recruitment pool, into your armies, not recruitment pool, my apologies, into your actual, you get an army of them and you can add them to one of your armies. So you're going to have kind of options like that. And again, depending on what you do, what choices you make is going to permanently do something with certain types of monster types that can join you, certain hero types, etc. in armies. So do keep in mind that these decisions, while they may seem tiny, they do have long-lasting implications. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed these tips for the Crusader system. Again, it is a system. It's got a lot of depth. Some people love it. Some people don't. You can automate it. I've been having a lot of fun kind of building up my armies, playing my little mini heroes of Might and Magic playstyle. It's up to you. But hopefully, between my beginner video and this video, I can get you off the ground running, and you can be smashing whatever you need, and you should hopefully not have any other issues. If you have any other confusions or have any other questions, do make sure to ask in the comments below. I'll do my best to answer. And if I come up with another variety of tips that I feel would be worthy of putting together on a video for the Crusade system, I will make sure and do so for you guys. All right, guys, and just remember, if you like this content, if you want to support the channel, hit the like button, subscribe, smash that notification bell, and as always, guys, I will see you guys in the next video.